The final radio transmission from Forward Operating Base Archer was recorded at 3:17 a.m. The signal lasted 47 seconds. At first, the recording contains only static. Then a voice can be heard shouting. Several voices, actually. Gunfire echoes somewhere in the background. Something metallic scrapes across the microphone. And then the signal ends. When investigators arrived at the base 3 days later, the facility was completely empty. No vehicles, no soldiers, no signs of a struggle. But the radios were still broadcasting. The same signal, over and over again. To understand how the transmission reached the base, we have to return to the moment the signal finally escaped the bunker. Deep beneath the valley, the soldiers stood frozen inside the underground chamber. The radio scanner in Keller's hands flashed wildly. Every frequency band was lighting up. Military channels, emergency bands, civilian frequencies, all transmitting the same signal, the same voice. You followed the signal. The chamber lights flickered again. Mendez stared at the radio display. It's broadcasting outside the bunker. Keller nodded slowly. It's using the equipment. The crates they had discovered earlier suddenly made sense. The radios, the antenna components, the transmitters. Someone had brought them here. Someone had tried to contain whatever lived inside the bunker, and failed. One of the soldiers, "So what do we do?" Mendez didn't hesitate. "We shut it down." Keller looked back at the tunnel where the signal had originated. The deeper tunnel, the one beneath the collapsed corridor. That's where the main transmitter is. Mendez raised his rifle. Then that's where we go. The remaining soldiers moved quickly through the chamber toward the hidden tunnel. The passage sloped downward steeply. The deeper they went, the older the bunker became. The concrete walls gave way to rough stone. The air grew colder, almost freezing. Loose wires hung from the ceiling, running deeper into the tunnel like veins, all feeding into a single direction, the signal source. After several minutes, the tunnel opened into the lowest chamber yet. This room looked different from the others. It wasn't Soviet. It wasn't military. It looked improvised. The walls were covered in radio equipment, antennas, transmitters, signal amplifiers. Dozens of them. Some looked decades old. Others were clearly recent, all connected together by tangled wiring. In the center of the room stood a tall metal tower, an improvised transmitter array. The signal was coming from there. But something else stood beside it. A figure. Tall, thin. Its limbs stretched longer than a human body should allow. But it wore military gear. Boots, tactical vest, uniform. Like something trying to imitate the soldiers it had studied. Keller, "That's what's been talking to us." The figure slowly turned toward them, its head tilted slightly. Then it spoke, using Keller's voice. "You came back." One of the soldiers fired. The rifle shot echoed through the chamber. The figure didn't react. Instead, it stepped backward into the shadow behind the transmitter. The radio equipment suddenly began broadcasting louder. The signal frequency spread across the scanner again. Mendez realized what was happening. It's not the creature. It's the transmission. Keller looked confused. "What do you mean?" Mendez pointed to the equipment around the chamber. "It's not copying voices. It's copying signals." Every radio transmission, every broadcast, every conversation soldiers had made inside the bunker. The creature wasn't the source. It was the receiver. Something inside the mountain had been listening, learning, repeating. Keller stared at the transmitter tower. It learned how to broadcast. The voice answered calmly. Yes. The chamber lights flickered violently. The transmitter array began emitting a low hum. The signal was growing stronger and stronger, until it was broadcasting far beyond the valley, beyond the mountains, beyond the base. Mendez turned toward Keller. If that signal spreads, every radio in the region will pick it up. Keller nodded slowly. And it will keep learning. Mendez made his decision. We destroy the transmitter. He handed a grenade to one of the soldiers. Set the charge. The soldier ran toward the tower. The creature moved instantly. It crossed the room faster than anything human could move. The lights went out. Gunfire filled the chamber. Flashlights spun wildly through the darkness. For a moment, the entire bunker echoed with shouting. Then the lights flickered back on. The creature was gone. But the grenade had been placed. The transmitter continued broadcasting. Keller watched the timer counting down. 10 seconds. 9. 8. The radio crackled again. One final transmission came through, using Keller's voice. If you hear this signal, the timer reached 3 seconds. Don't come here. 2 seconds. The soldiers ran for the tunnel. 1 second. The explosion tore through the chamber. The transmission from the bunker ended immediately. Or at least, that's what the surviving logs suggest. Because 3 days later, investigators arrived at FOB Archer. The bunker had collapsed. The valley was silent again. But the base was empty. The radio equipment was still running, and the signal was still broadcasting, repeating the final message. If you hear this signal, static filled the speakers. Then the voice whispered one final sentence. You already sent us.